Yo, what's good, YouTube? ZAMCRO here, aka Scoop, back with here with the Pokemon Battle Federation Season 4 Week 1 Power Rankings. So, Week 1 is in the books. It's been in the books for a while, but I figured I would go back and catch the league up on the power ranks. So, that being said, I'm just going to ramble on here a little bit. And if you missed the recaps, it's the video that went up before the post-draft power rankings video went up, so check that out and you'll understand why every team is placed where they are. Now, I'm going to start off with the number 12 team and work up to the first place team. I'll go over the divisions as well. I think I can do that off the top of my head. I might make some notes as I'm going over everything else. And then, well, basically I'm going to go over the league the power ranks, the league standings, and the divisional and conference standings, as well as the schedule, who everybody played next week, and then the knockout leaders of respective weeks. So, like I said, this is going to be week 1, so I'm going to start off with the number 12 team, and that's going to be the 0-1 Dallas Star Utes with a -3 differential. Now, I have them at the bottom of the pile for a couple of reasons. Now, they share a record and differential with the number 11 team, but I think the number 11 team played better and had a more interesting match, whereas Dallas Poketai had a more of a lopsided battle against Ryan, coach of the RB. We'll get into that in a little bit later. But yeah, I think the Dallas Star Utes were the number 12 ranked team, in my opinion. Their prep was not all that great, and they played their Darmanitan poorly. Otherwise, they brought some pretty good stuff. As long as I felt like if he got rid of Landers, then he would have had a better time with his sand offense. And of course, I think Milotic was a problem for Ryan as long as Poketai got rid of the not the Mega, but the regular Venusaur. So yeah, I'm gonna have Ty here at number 3. I think I don't think there's anything I want to go over particularly. Oh, I disagree with the way he played his Hitmontop, which I mentioned that in the recap. But yeah, I think that's another reason. And then Mega Altaria's set wasn't the best set against Ryan's team. Like, he has multiple Intimidate users, multiple checks to Mega Altaria, maybe a Hyper Voice with a Draco dropping, and Fire Blast would have been a little bit better because he could drop Dracos pretty freely as long as Clef Key was gone, which is what Fire Blast would be used for. And then Hyper Voice for things, after Draco. After Draco just nuke everything, I think Hyper Voice would do a lot as long as the Clef Key's gone. That being said, we'll move on to the number 11 team. Now, I think the number 11 team and the number 10 team could be interchangeable. Actually, I'm going to interchange them right here, and I'm just going to go ahead and talk. Okay, I had a different thought process, but now I was just going by differential, but I'm going to go by playstyle. Differential is a little bit different. If you want to check out the league standings every week, you can just look it up on the league document. So this is going to be power ranks. So it basically goes by your play instead of the outcome. So I'm going to give number 11 to San Francisco 40 Arcaniners, who are 0-1 with a -2 differential, which is obviously a better score than my number 10 thing I'm going to talk about in a minute. But yeah, I think he played very suboptimally. He lost his it took a while, but he ended up losing his offensive threats before, given that he was playing a stall team. He lost all of his offensive and wall breakers before getting rid of certain checks and stuff. It didn't make sense to me, some of the plays he did. I saw a lot of unnecessary doubles, and his check to a Calm Mind Mega Sableye was Swords Dance Mega Absol with Play Rough. So I disagree with that. I think Tapu Koko would have been a lot better. I think Empoleon and Gliscor could have been used better. This is a really, really solid team on paper. So as long as you prep and play accordingly, you should do pretty well, in my opinion. So I am going to blame the coach, and I'm going to put him at number 10. I guess that's just about it. I don't think he played Victini and Dragonite all that well either. Definitely switching Dragonite in on Toxapex a few times and risking the burn, and eventually got the burn, so Dragonite essentially become useless. So I disagree with that as well. Next up, for number 10, is going to be the Chicago Ursaring, who are 0-1 with a -3 differential. But he played a pretty good match. It was very interesting. It was a back and forth match with the Virginia State Braviaries, and he just caught the short end of the stick. I think Rotom Heat missed an overheat, which is pretty crucial. I think that was just about it when it comes to RNG in the match, but I think that was pretty big play in the match, because he would have had his Rotom. He wouldn't have had to go into a certain. I think he had to go into Crocodile to get the kill on the, I think, Primarina. And yeah, he played well, but like I said, he got the short end of the stick, so he's going to end up losing the match with a -3 differential. So that was kind of why he would be so low. I think there's some other teams that even. No, I would say this is pretty fair. So yeah, I'm going to put the Chicago Ursaring at number 10, and then we can move on to number 9, where I have myself, coach of the Blackmont Raccoons. We lost we lost 0-2 to the Lacinosa Lucarios in a match that we just. It's not that we played bad. We just risk our win con. We risk. We made a risk versus reward play, and the reward was far less detrimental than the risk was. So, like, if I would have been rewarded on that play, it would have been no doubt my win. No doubt. Like, Embor put in the work. The prep was phenomenal in my opinion, and I think Lacinosa's prep was actually lackluster, and he just he caught me off guard. Like, I knew it was a potential Sash Alakazam, but I thought it was worth the risk, because I didn't think Alakazam would be that good against my team without a Life Orb. He couldn't break my Mew without a Life Orb. He couldn't break even Cofagrigus or not Embor, Donphan, Manaphy. He couldn't break my bulkier mons without a Life Orb, especially if I brought AV Electros, which is a good answer to not only a lot of his special attackers, but it's a good answer to Celesteela. It's a good answer to Electivire, Gastrodon even. And yeah, so I really think the prep was there, but the plays weren't there. Shouldn't have risked my Embor. I would have started out the season 1-0, but we started out 0-1 with a -2 differential, and that's why I ranked myself 9th in the league. But moving on to number 8, I have the Goldenrod Zebstricas, and I have them here because I think they had a win. I think they had a win in the bag, and ended up letting it slip from their grasp. Played a really, really good match. It came down to the wire, where a Defog Intimidate Salamence eventually got Sky off guard with a Dragon Dance, and ended up being able to sweep the game. And yeah, that's basically it. They got a double Intimidate on the Terrakion, forced it out on the second Intimidate as he set up a Dragon Dance and got swept. If Terrakion would have stayed in and maybe went for an attack plus Entei's extreme speed, he may have ended up pulling a victory out there. Not sure. You never know how games go. But yeah, I think Sky's prep was there. I think it was a really, really solid match, really fun to watch, and he just ends up with a loss, -2 differential. So obviously it was close, and there's plenty of season to go. So no reason to be any lower than 8. So since he played a really really good game. Next up, I'm actually going to have, before going to the last team that actually lost, we actually have a 1-win team before the 1-loss team coming up here. We do have a winner at rank number 7 instead of the last loser, which kind of makes sense, but kind of doesn't make sense. I think. Okay, so number 7, I have Seattle Thunderbirds, Spazzy Platt. Didn't necessarily play so great and didn't prep so great. He just ended up having a really good win because his opponent just didn't play that well. That being said, he brought a lot of the mons that he should have brought, but just a little different sets than what I envisioned when I saw the schedule. But he did play optimally, but it wasn't very impressive. He does have a stall team, so it's probably not going to impress me that much all season. So I guess that's another reason it's pretty low on the rankings. But he did win, so congratulations, Spazzy. Nice to have you here, bud. Number 6, we're going to have the Houston Rotoms, who is 0-1 with a -2 differential. This game, he played against St. Louis, came down to the wire, and there was RNG on both sides, but it comes down to Nazarmat putting himself in a position to win, and Mega Metacham misses the high jump kick on the Magna Zone, which would have been dropped. And then I forget what Andy had last, but it would have dropped to the high jump kick as well. I forget what it was though. I think it was Mega Scizor. But yeah, Nazarmat put himself in a position to win the game with high jump kick at the end, and caught the real short end of the stick with a miss at the end for a Magna Zone sweep. He was up 3-2 with Mega Metacham, looking like it was going to come through with a 3-0 victory. Ends up missing and goes down 0-2. But like I said, it was a back and forth match. It was really really good. If there was no RNG, it would have been nice to see how it played out. And that goes for throughout the whole match. Like, I forget what it was. I think there was a burn on Muck, and there was like a crit or something with, I forget, but there was a lot of RNG on both sides of the game. So it'd been nice to see how that would have played out without the RNG. And number 5, we're actually going to have the winner of that match, St. Louis. Andy, coach of the St. Louis Carbinks, 1-0 with a +2 differential. Like I said, Andy played well. It came down to the wire, and ultimately, he probably should have lost to the Mega Metacham, but there was RNG on both sides, so it kind of made up for what bad luck had already happened to Andy, and he's going to pull out a 2-0 victory off of a Mega Metacham miss. Now, this is important because it puts him at, number 5 on the power ranks. With a +2 differential, meaning there was potentially 4 teams with a +2 differential after week 1, and only 2 teams with a +3 differential. So it could have put him anywhere between the number 6 and number 3 spot, but I'm going to put him at number 5 because in hindsight, if Mega Metacham landed those high jump kicks, he would have lost. But that's not to take away anything from Andy. He did play great. It looked like his prep was there as well. And he has Garchomp, so how can I put him any lower than 5? Next up is going to be number 4. Got Bryn and the Lacinosa Lucarios, 1-0 with a +2 differential. He did beat us. I do think his prep was suboptimal. Actually, I'm going to go to the extent to say it was kind of bad. He had no switch in for Embor. He had his only switch in to Embor was Mega Charizard, which was hardwalled by my Donphan, which he had nothing for. Besides the Gastrodon, which got whittled down easily by the rest of my team. His Celesteela set was setup fodder for multiple mons. His Weavile set was okay, but like he should. I don't understand him leading with it when there was a Embor on the other side of the field. That could have easily been my lead since it ripped through his team. But he played okay. He risked a lot of things at the end that could have almost cost them the match if Celestilla was weakened. He went out into Charizard unnecessarily and lost this Zard. He went into Sylveon next and almost got dropped by Donphan, also. And then it come down to Sylveon living on a sliver of hair and Celestilla being, mid to max HP or something like that. And he ends up pulling, it should have been a strong 3-0 victory after the risk play, but it ends up coming down to a close 2-0 victory. So probably shouldn't do that later in the season, bro. If you lost that match, it would have been detrimental. Oh my goodness, it would have been so bad if you'd have lost that match because you wanted Zard to get a kill. But you did get the 2-0 victory, so there's that. I think your prep needs to be a little bit more solid later in the matches because we do have great competition coming up. You got Andy, the coach of the St. Louis Carbinks, and then you got Ryan, then you got Greg, and then you got Sky, Nazar Matt later on down, Noodle, and then you finish out with Greg and Andy again. So just make sure your prep's there. Your team's definitely there. Just make sure your prep's there, and you should finish out the season. You should probably make playoffs. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, if you prep well, you'll make playoffs. Next up, we have the third-ranked team, Toronto Star Raptors, coached by my good buddy Noodle, aka Reckless Ursaring, who has a pretty solid squad. He does have a random mon on there, Kadabra, but otherwise the team's pretty solid. Very great Fairy Dragon Steel Core, which is what I'm going to get into in the game. The game come down to the wire, like I said, when I was talking about Goldenrod and Skyrise. And Noodle bluffed the Salamence being more of a defensive set with Defog and Intimidate, maybe to be like an Entei switch in or something, with maybe like a special set. Ends up pulling Intimidate, like it was 2v2 or something, 2v3. Comes in, intimidates the Terrakion with Salamence, doubles out into Aggron, sacks it off, comes in and intimidates the Terrakion again, and forces the Terrakion out as he sets up a Dragon Dance. Really great bluff, and ultimately winning the game with a Salamence sweep 3-0. Well, not a 3-0 sweep. It was a 2-0 sweep, but he got 3 kills. Yeah, and that's going to be the game. I think that was a really, really fun game to watch, and the way Noodle played the end game earns him the number 3 spot on the power ranks, in my opinion. And next up, we're going to go to the number 2 position here. We have Ryan, coach of the RB Leipzig Zagoons. 1-0 plus 3 differential. Played a really solid game. It was dominant over the number 12 ranked team that I have down there, Dallas. We do have Ryan playing a dominant game here. Not as entertaining, and that's why he's going to be the number 2 spot. I don't think he was contested, but he was so dominant I couldn't put him any lower than number 2. Really great prep on his part. He brought some really strong threats: Megalopunny, Landorus, Arcanine, Druddigon. Defensive Druddigon was a great check for the Darmanitan. So it's really, really well prepped and well played. I think you'll do some pretty good things this season. That being said, we'll move on to the number 1 ranked team in the power rankings. Rob, coach of the Virginia State Braviaries, 1-0 plus 3 differential. Probably the most. Okay, it was the most back and forth game. I'll say that. I don't know if it was the most entertaining, but it was definitely the most back and forth game. I think it was the closest game of the season, or the closest game of week 1, even though the differential doesn't show it. The match could have really went either way versus Greg, who also played great. Both players played great, and that's what I thought made the match so good. And Rob's going to come out with a victory here. He did have, I think he set up a Dragon Dance and was able to kill the Kieran Black with the Mega Tyranitar. Stone Edge landing and stuff like that. I think Landers was a big threat to his team. Just played well, phenomenal game, and that's going to earn him the number 1 spot on the power rankings. Now, moving on to the league standings, and I'm not really going to go over the league standings again because it's really just in terms of record and differential. But we can move on to the divisional leaders, and in the Malay division. Okay, I don't. These divisions are named after the Sun and Moon islands or something like that. Malay. I don't know. You tell me. We have St. Louis at number 1 in the Malay or Mealy, whatever. St. Louis number 1, Lake Enosa number 2, and Chicago number 3. The Akala, I don't know, whatever. Um, the other division in the Sun Conference, we have Ryan, coach of the RB Leipzig Zagoons, at number 1, Toronto Star Raptors at number 2, and the San Francisco 40 Arcaniners at number 3, as well as over here in the Moon Division, we have the Eula Division, or Ula, whatever. What the fuck ever. Moon Conference, 1 division, whatever. We have Virginia State at number 1, Blackmont at number 2, and Dallas Stars at number 3. And then in the Pony Division, I guess Pawnee, I don't know, whatever, fuck it. We have the Seattle Thunderbirds at number 1, the Goldenrod, the Houston Rotoms at number 2, and the Goldenrod Zip Strikers at number 3. Now, Goldenrod and Houston have the same record, same differential at 0-1 with a -2 differential, but Houston lost because he missed a high jump kick. So we're going to give him the number 2 spot in that division, and now we can move on to the knockout leaders. We're only going to do the top 5. I know the league spreadsheet does the top 8, and then it does the next 5, so a total of 13, with 5 being in the hunt, and then the top 8 with the top 3 being color-coded. We'll do the top 5 though, and number 1 is going to be Salamence. Salamence got a mini sweep with the Dragon Dance, 2-0 sweep at the end with a 3-0 differential in the entire match. So Salamence will sit atop of the KO leaders here, and then we'll move on to the next mon, which is Magnezone from the St. Louis Carbinks, getting a nice little finish there with a 3-0, being able to skillfully dodge a high jump kick, knock out the Mega Medicham, knock out the Vaporeon, knock out the Alolan Persian, and win the match. So Magnezone's going to earn the number 2 spot on the leaderboard this week. And then we have Celesteela, which just would not die and was getting the Toxic and the Leech Seed recovery, subbing up, and then throwing off some air slashes. Ended up picking up 3 knockouts with 0 deaths, grabbing the number 3 spot on the leaderboard. And then second to last, we have Crocodile picking up 3 kills in his in Greg's loss actually. 3 wins, 1 death, +2 differential, and basically just got the kills. And then last but certainly not least, the reigning MVP with the most knockouts in PBF history, we have Garchomp. Single season history, that is. We have Garchomp sitting at 2-1 with a +1 differential. Maybe could have went 3-0, maybe could have went further than that, but got caught off guard with a quick attack from the Diggersby, and Garchomp moves to 2-1, sitting at number 5 on the KO leaderboard. And basically, I'm going to go over the Season 2 matchup, or the Season 4 Week 2 matchups. We have St. Louis taking on Lacunosa. We have Chicago taking on San Francisco, we have Toronto taking on RB. We have Blackmont taking on Cleveland, who is replacing the Virginia State Braviaries. We have Dallas taking on Seattle, Houston taking on Goldenrod, and then that'll wrap up the week 2 matchups. So that's going to be it for the video. If you like, leave a like, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff, and I'll see you guys in the week 2 recap. Thank you for watching.